My name is Dr. Eric Aiken, and many of you already know me. But I just got back from a convention in Orlando, and a lot of revelations were made at this thing. You need to know this. If you want to have a job in the next 3 years or so, and I don't care who you are and what you do, then you need to listen to me now for the next few minutes. So, just a fine example, I was just talking to someone today, a company, CEO of a company who is in software. They make a electronic health record technology, and they call it Shadow. And if you're somebody, by the way, that works in a doctor's office, well, Shadow is probably going to replace you. This software will basically, when the doctor goes into the room with the patient, he interviews the patient, he then examines the patient, and then by the end of that encounter, let's just say I saw a patient, they needed back surgery, but they needed to see a cardiologist before, make sure their heart's okay for surgery. By the end of that conversation, I don't have to type anything. It will have written my note. It will have documented the exam. It will have scheduled or sent the request for a consultation to the cardiologist and confirmed the appointment date and emailed the patient to tell them of the date and time, and even text them if you wanted to. And then it will send me the feedback from that evaluation and alert me to my phone, and it will schedule the surgery. It will do everything. Okay. It eliminates the need for an office staff pretty much, except for maybe the nurse. It can't put a blood pressure cuff on your arm just yet. So apart from that, it's going to eliminate a lot of jobs. Shadow, just wait for it. You'll hear about it. So that's just one thing. This is the medical industry I'm talking about, but there's a whole lot of other things out there where basically their job will go bye-bye. And I'm not trying to fearmonger here. I'm telling you the reality of the situation. But there is a career opportunity that is AI proof, that it will not go away, not because of AI anyway, because it is based on human relationships. It happens to be for a product that addresses the single largest medical problem in the world, which is metabolic syndrome. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about metabolic syndrome because it has directly affected my family. My dad, here, I'm going to switch lanes here. It's the 3 F's. Okay. So if you have heard of this before, brain fog, chronic fatigue, excess body fat, all of these are symptoms. They're symptoms of this problem called metabolic syndrome. And you may have other symptoms like hair loss. This is a woman, by the way, woman with missing quite a bit of hair here on the top, usually near the front of the crown rather than in the back, like most men do. Skin tags. You ever seen these on somebody? Those are signs that you have become insulin resistant. You may not yet be a diabetic, but you're insulin resistant long before you're a diabetic, and it's doing a lot of damage every day. Or this is called acanthosis nigricans. These little dark areas around the skin folds. That's a problem. That's a problem for a lot of people. And it's a sign of insulin resistance. You're getting sicker. Here's something that you can't see. This is what happens to your brain after a long period of time with insulin resistance. Notice on the left side, you got these little slit-like cavities. Those are normal. Those are called ventricles. Look how big they are on this side. All right. This brain has been exposed to high levels of insulin and the consequences of that, the high inflammation that happens, the high blood pressure, and then maybe even ultimately the type 2 diabetes. You start losing brain cells over this. Okay, this is what happens, but you can't see it. Here's a spine. On the left side, a normal spine. On the right side, it looks like molten lava bone here. These vertebrae have auto-fused together. This person's lost a lot of the range of motion, not to mention they have a lot of pain. This is a condition called DISH, diffuse idiopathic skeletal hyperostosis, directly tied to insulin resistance, to what they ate is what caused all of these things. Here's a heart. This is a cardiomyopathy, the cardiac hypertrophy. So you got this thick heart muscle. You want your heart efficient and strong. You don't want it thick. Okay. It gets to be like a weightlifter with the thick muscles and it can't really move well. You want your heart nimble but strong. Here's what happens to your arteries with this same problem. Here's a normal artery like this, normal walls. Here they are overgrown, thickened, narrowing the artery down, pushing you closer and closer to a stroke. Not to mention you have high blood pressure. Your kidneys are taking a hit from all that pressure. So this is a problem for about 88% of the United States sitting here as I speak to you right now. Man, woman, and child, about 88% of everybody has some degree of insulin resistance. This is what happened to my dad. I'm going to show you him. This is my dad. Here he is in his 30s. He's a young general surgeon at the time. And notice he's starting to put on a bit more of this body fat. And then at this point, he can't get rid of the fat because the high insulin levels. When you have high insulin, you cannot burn fat because insulin inactivates this enzyme. It's called hormone sensitive lipase. That's the enzyme that helps you break up fat so you can use it for energy. When insulin's high, it shuts the ability of that enzyme to work right off. So when you get the insulin levels back down again, well, then that enzyme can go to work and start mobilizing your fat stores, helping you to lose the excess fat. Here he was in florid metabolic syndrome, insulin resistant, high blood pressure. He was in pre-diabetes at this point, carrying the excess weight. And it wouldn't be long before he was going to get into some serious problems. He eventually got type 2 diabetes. He got a neuropathy of his feet. He got vasculopathy. He ended up having a partial foot amputation, and then he succumbed to it at age 74. His life was really hard for those last 11 years before all this happened. It doesn't have to be like that. You can die fully functional, standing on your feet, if you play the game differently. But the current healthcare paradigm that we're dealing with, they are reactionary. They are not proactive at all. And they are heavily involved, inbred with certain industries, like the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry got its big start with killing bacteria, but the problem with that is that once you kill the bacteria with an antibiotic, well, the problem's solved. You don't need an antibiotic anymore. So then they got into chronic disease, and they're not interested in curing chronic disease. They're interested in managing chronic disease. Okay. So you're not seeing a tremendous life extension or quality of life extension with the current medications that most of our primary care and internal medicine are pushing out there to you. That paradigm doesn't work. Here's the paradigm. Current paradigm: if you have obesity, if you have type 2 diabetes, or you're insulin resistant, if you have hypertension, if you have a cholesterol problem, then you've got a lane and a set of drugs for each lane here. Okay. That's the way this works. And they just manage this. They don't reverse it. Okay. You get a 10% risk reduction for death and disease with this paradigm. And by the way, you still have the chronic disease at the end of all of that. So let me go to the next one. I want to show you the other side of that. I had another side of this. Here's the one you want to see. So here's that paradigm. Here's the new paradigm, the one you should be participating in. Reversing the central feature of metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, or diabetes. You reverse it, not manage it. You correct the cholesterol or take its toxicity out. You achieve the normal body weight. You get a normal blood pressure, and you double the risk reduction, over 20%. No side effects. All of these things here, they have potential serious side effects. This new paradigm, double the risk reduction, but no side effects. And you actually get to feel great. Okay. This doesn't necessarily make you feel a lot better. This does. Okay. This is the paradigm we need to be going to, but there's too much money in this. Okay. There's a lot of money there and to be had. And there's a lot of people saying this is the way, the truth, and the light. And they're very credible people. And, but there's guys like this. This is Robert Lustig. Robert Lustig is a true voice for the people. He is a pediatrician, but he was also instrumental in helping change policies regarding what foods were given for people who were on food assistance to make sure that they were given things that would be healthful to them. Like, for example, they would let them have the juice, but they wouldn't let them have the fruit. Now, does that make sense at all? That they can have the juice, but not the fruit? Which do you think is more healthful for you? And I think I don't have to explain it to you. And there's others in the field that are coming out, a lot of them. And they're breaking the old paradigm, but they get a lot of attacks because that's the threat. That's a threat to the status quo. This is typical. Whenever a paradigm changes, there's always going to be a pushback. And it's just like when the old paradigm for stress ulcers, peptic ulcers of the stomach. For the longest time, we said the origin of that problem was stress. I mean, we called them stress ulcers for that matter. And then this gentleman came along, was studying this, and he kept noticing that he was culturing the same bacteria out of the stomachs of people with stomach ulcers. I don't know why he chose to start culturing it, but the same bacteria, H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori, was cultured from every one of these people with an ulcer. He started to get it in his head that maybe it's not stress that causes this, because not everybody that had an ulcer had stress. So how do you explain that? Well, if it's an infectious disease, maybe that actually would explain that. So instead of you taking anti-stress medications for the rest of your life and never getting better from your stress ulcer, instead you take an antibiotic, kills the bacteria, stress ulcer is gone. Everybody thought he was an idiot. They thought he was a liar and an idiot. So you know what he did to prove it? He drank a vial of Helicobacter pylori and gave himself a stress or a peptic ulcer. And then he took the antibiotic, killed the bacteria, healed his ulcer, and he ended up finally winning the Nobel Prize in medicine for that. So whenever a paradigm changes, there's always a fight that starts. And same thing happened when it came to sterile technique. The doctor that figured that out, he said, I think that there's something on our hands that's being transferred to these women that were delivering their babies. The women were getting really bad infections and many of them dying. And he said, we're going to do an experiment. We're going to have half of the hospital is going to wash their hands before they deliver a baby. The other half, they're going to just do things as we've always done them. In the first week, they saw a 50% reduction in the number of infections and deaths on the hand washing side. And you know what they said? Did they institute hand washing immediately? No, they said they were offended. They were offended that he would implicate the doctor as the source of the infection. And it wasn't until years later that finally, it was proven without a doubt that they are transferring infectious agents, and you need to be using a sterile technique when you do invasive procedures or deliver a baby. So this is a new paradigm. There's going to be a lot of pushback. And the thing is that the institutions that be have a lot of money. They're going to want to try to make this look as bad as possible, because this is something that actually doesn't just manage the problem. It helps to reverse problems. It helps you to reverse it for yourself. So this business model so happens to share the wealth with you. Now, if you go to your doctor and order that Ozempic shot, does Ozempic share a portion of their profits? Does Novo Nordisk share some profits with you? Do they let you try it for 3 months risk-free? You can get a 90-day money-back guarantee from Novo Nordisk for trying Ozempic? No way, because they've got complete control. They don't need you. Okay, they are a $300 billion gorilla. But this company comes along and they do those things for you because they got a product that works. And you can go on the product. You can try it 3 months, recheck your labs, see what's happening on the scale. Nicely, weight's coming down, blood pressure starts coming down. If you happen to be a type 2 diabetic, you can watch your blood sugars go down, your hemoglobin A1C goes down, your fasting insulin goes down, your HOMA-IR. These aren't touchy-feely results. These are lab results that you can watch change if you take this product. And if you don't get the results, well, you can get your money back. And they will share the lion's share of the profit with you. 5.56% of the profits come to us as a whole. This is the deal. But you got to understand, the big pharma, they're in the medical schools, man. They're helping decide the curriculum and how doctors are taught this information. And if you, go to medical school, well, you're indoctrinated in this line of thought by the old paradigm. And they are avid believers. Believe me. I see cardiologists on here all the time talking about the miracles of statin drugs. And you have to wonder, like, if statins are so important, then why is it that half of the people who have heart attacks have normal cholesterol levels? If that is the answer, how do you explain that? If normal cholesterol levels are existing right now in half the people having a heart attack, is the statin really the solution? Or is our understanding of this paradigm wrong? And that's where I'm fully convinced you're going to see a major shift and change in that paradigm, how we understand cholesterol. And I really feel like more important than the cholesterol level. Now, I do think that the cholesterol level is a problem for those people who have these genetic abnormalities. They're only about 5% of the population. But, some of these people have astronomically high cholesterol, and way too much of a good thing is a bad thing, So even HDL, the so-called good cholesterol, if you have really high HDL, that can actually be a bad thing in certain people. But moderate elevations, I'm beginning to wonder if those, and this is my opinion, but I'm beginning to wonder if those are not as significant as we once thought. And what's really more important is the inflammation level in your body at the time, no matter what your, if you've got moderately elevated cholesterol levels or normal cholesterol levels, it's all still bad if you've got a lot of inflammation. And what makes the inflammation grow? Insulin resistance. It's the central feature. It's the head of the medusa. The only way to take out the medusa, cut off the head, and all those snakes go away. But if you don't take the head, then it's still a problem, no matter what. You can take the arms, the legs, the feet, but if you don't take the head, then you've got all the problems. You're just managing disease. So I'm borrowing these slides. Here's all of the stuff that is related to insulin resistance. It's not just blood pressure and heart attacks. So type 2 diabetes obviously is the end stage of this problem. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is now the number one type of liver disease that we're getting now. We did estimates in the United States. We thought in the United States that our numbers would be similar to Europe and all the other countries. They're about 25% of the population has 25% of their population over age 40, I think, has some level of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. In the United States, it was 45%. Almost 1 in 2 people had some degree of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Why this is so significant? There's 4 visceral organs you must have to live: liver, heart, lungs, brain. Okay. Liver is on that list. And if you start damaging your liver with sugar and processed carbs, then you're removing one of those 4 organs you got to have to live. High blood pressure, obviously, I just mentioned before. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. Did you know that PCOS is tied to being insulin resistant? Eating too much sugar, carbs, processed foods, weight gain, obviously, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's. I see all these things coming out all the time, how Alzheimer's might be tied to some infections and whatnot. By far and away, the biggest risk factor, if you want to reduce your risk by more than anything else, the single move you can make is to get sugar out of your life most days of the week. Okay. If sugar is an everyday thing for you, probably shouldn't be. Make sugar a once on the weekend thing or once a month, even better. But if you have sugar and processed carbs, the rice, the cornmeal, even like mashed potatoes all the time, every day, you're pushing yourself straight toward Alzheimer's, and the second most common type of dementia is vascular dementia. Joint pain, inflammation. The vast majority of patients that I see in clinic for neck and back pain are insulin resistant. Absolutely. And the vast majority of the ones I end up operating on are florid diabetics. Okay. They've gone the full gamut. Sleep apnea, kidney disease, all problems, cancer, definitely a time. If you want to make cancer grow faster, feed it sugar, feed it processed carbs. It'll grow real fast then. It's like miracle grow for cancer. Depression, stroke, infertility, skin problems. I just showed you some of those. Gout is definitely, just eat a lot of sugar. You can get that gout cranked up, get that big red toe that is like on fire. Gastrointestinal problems, hair loss, heart disease, the number 1 killer. These are just a few of the things tied to insulin resistance. And just so happens that many of these are on the top 10 killers of humans here. So this product, for the longest time, I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps about being a doctor, but I didn't want to follow in his footsteps metabolically. But you can see in this picture right here, I definitely was following those footsteps. I was putting on the weight. I couldn't get rid of it. I knew that fasting was a good thing. I heard people doing it. I couldn't do it. Shoot, I would eat breakfast in the morning, eggs and some oatmeal, trying to be healthy, eating the oatmeal, thinking I was doing myself a favor. And by 11 o'clock, I was white knuckling it until lunchtime. And then I'd eat a big lunch. And of course, I was going to have some cookies because, those hospitals make really good chocolate chip cookies. And then I'd be all right till about 4 o'clock. Then I was going to have a little snack. And then I was going to have dinner after that, then another snack and whatever else until I fell asleep. And of course, if you called me in the middle of the night from the emergency room, well, I got to go visit that pantry again, get a few of those Oreo minis, tide me over, help me think. That was my mindset. I unplugged from now. I couldn't get that stuff out of my mouth. Okay. It basically, it's not an addiction. I guess it does have addiction properties, but it is once you get into that cycle of insulin resistance, it is an absolute physiologic need for you to keep feeding your body sugar. Let me explain why that happens, why you can't seem to give it up, and why you're hungry every 90 minutes. Let me find this one little slide here that explains that. Where did it go? Where is it? It's really close. Okay. Almost. Here we are. Yes. Okay. So when I get up at 3 in the morning and 2 in the morning, or if it's 10 in the morning and I'm at the office, I eat some of those little Oreo minis. Here's what happens to my blood sugar. Spikes way up real fast, real high. So my insulin levels go up too from the pancreas, and they overshoot responding to this fast jump in my blood sugar, and they slam dunk my blood sugar back below the baseline where it should be. So what happens right here where it goes below the baseline is you get hungry again. So you got to eat again. And of course, you're going to dose again with sugar because you're ravenously hungry from that. Your blood sugar is actually low. So you keep going through this curve over and over every day. And eventually you see your insulin levels drop. Let me find, I'm sorry, you see your insulin levels slowly climbing over time. This is what happens. Your baseline fasting insulin levels, they should be here between these two levels. There's a normal. If it's too low, it's bad. If it's too high, it's bad. But you start to see your baseline insulin levels climbing over time because it takes more insulin to control your blood pressure, your blood sugar. So when you eat that Oreo in the beginning, it just takes a normal amount of insulin. But once you've been doing this for a few years, it takes a lot more insulin to get it under control. And so you're being exposed to high levels of insulin over time. And I told you already, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. High insulin levels lead to all that other stuff. It's the insulin that's making you overweight. It's the insulin driving up your blood pressure, damaging your kidneys, knocking your hair off the top of your head, giving you those skin tags, destroying your spine, and creating the inflammation in your joints. You get the insulin levels back down, all that stuff starts to fade away. But you might think to yourself, like I did, there's no way I can fast. There's no way I can stop eating sugar. I just love it too much. I think I would just rather go on as I am than to do without it. But instead of your blood sugar looking like this, you want it to look like this. And when it does start looking like this after it responds to a meal, those cravings for the sugar go away. You start to realize I can fast. I can live without sugar most days of the week. It's just not that big of a deal anymore. It turns that signal off in your brain. Instead of this, where you're getting hungry again, from here to here is 90 minutes. Instead, it goes on for hours. You're not hungry. All right. And you don't get those high glucose spikes. You need a tool, a natural tool with no side effects that can help you to create this situation so you can break out of the cycle. And that's what I needed. And I just showed you the result of that. What happened to me once I broke out of that cycle. Let me see if I can find it. I want to show you the comparison. Bam. There. Once I broke out, this was just months later, just a few months later. All of a sudden, I was able to burn my own fat stores. And because my body was shifting into fat burning mode. And you burn what you eat. If you eat sugar, you're burning sugar. But if you eat fat, you're burning your fat. And I shifted from, this terrible insulin resistance cycle into this. And I've never looked back. My brain immediately, within days, way sharper. And it's just been clicking on all cylinders since. But it didn't just happen for me. It happened for this guy. This is James Cox. James was he was a upper management in a meat company. And, the culture of that company was, let's eat indiscriminately, let's drink a lot, let's do all these things that are terrible for our health, and look at the result. He did not think there was any way that he could ever achieve this. And actually, he is much leaner now than this picture. But at the point of this picture taken, just 6 months down the line, he had lost 70 pounds doing this. He's on no medicines, 51 years old. Over and over again. Now, these are just the guys. Okay. But look at here. Now, this is a woman, if I'm not mistaken, she was an exerciser, and she just sort of developed this inner tube here that she couldn't get rid of, even despite being a regular exerciser. You can't outrun a bad diet. What this natural system helped her to do is break out of that vicious cycle so that she could then adopt better eating. And then boom, the inner tire has deflated. Look at it. It just melts over and over again. Boom, boom. Here's another couple. Look at her face. Look, you can see her dimples there. Better. Rolled back the clock on her face, both of them. Met her. I've known her for a while. but reconnected with her this past weekend. We all, as a consequence of being in this business together, we all, once you've done well enough, you got a free cruise. We got 4 nights on a Royal Caribbean cruise free. And she and both her and her husband were on that cruise. Look at her. This is Jesus. Jesus is down over 100 pounds at this point. This picture, I don't even think does him justice. I want you to, he's got new ones out. I want to show you. But Jesus, again, he worked in that same company that James did. 2 guys, same company, same culture. Suddenly they got control. Another one here. Again, this is what you kind of expect. You kind of think, as you get older, you're just supposed to be, chubby, chubs. No, you're not. She looks like she's ready to go play a tennis tournament there. This gentleman right here was a type 2 diabetic for 27 years. And for the longest time, the American Diabetes Association, their position was that diabetes was a progressive disease, that once you got it, it was going to keep going. The best you could hope for was to stave it off. And it wasn't until recently that they finally admitted that this is a potentially reversible disease. That's as far as they would go, is that it is potentially reversible. We all know it's reversible. This guy had it for a quarter of a century and reversed it. It is reversible. This gentleman here weighed almost a quarter of a ton, down over 100 pounds. He was on 24 medicines with this. You think I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall with the doctor and him when he was saying, okay, I know you're on 23 medicines, but we're going to have to take one more. Okay, well, we got to make it 24. We got to manage this. You think that really helped him? That 24th medicine, was it going to extend his life miraculously? You know how many medicines he's on here? 3, soon to be none. Here to here, what 24 medicines couldn't do, this natural system helped him to do. Funny how you just don't need those medicines anymore when you start actually going with the new paradigm. Her, look at that. This is where she was. I'm sure she's very pleased with that. That's Michelle. Dr. Midge, this is an endocrinologist, by the way, who's involved with this business, had the same issue. This is Dr. Tiffany Hendricks, family medicine. This is Dr. Steve Brown, anesthesiologist. All of them involved in this business as well with me, but we're the minority as doctors. Okay, the people that are making the most money, having the most fun, none of these people are medical people even. Dr. Kenneth Harper, general surgery, me, neurosurgery. Shannon Davis, registered dietitian. She's also happens to be one of the founders and on the board of the American Diabetes Society, which is the new authoritative organization that is telling the truth. Dr. Ben Bickman also has been doing research on this. Dr. Ben Bickman is a new superstar in the metabolic health space. Wrote this book here, Why We Get Sick. If you really want to understand why we get sick, you really need to read this book. But he's been doing studies on this product showing its efficacy here. Nick Norwitz, another one. This guy is young. He's a Harvard University medical student. He's going to be an absolute superstar, but also involved here with this. So what is the business? It is this product right here. Okay. This is the system. Let me see if I can get a better picture of this. By the way, it's fat me. Okay, here we go. This is the system. 2 nutraceuticals. They're used together. Together they have a synergistic effect. They complement each other. I'm actually holding them right here. One is here. So the one on the left, Unimate. Well, first, let me show you how they're to be used. Okay. You take them daily. All you got to do is mix them in water, shake it up, drink it. It takes 15 seconds. This isn't hard. Okay. It's not a 10-step process. It's 2 nutraceuticals that you drink. So the way you do this, in the morning, you get up, you skip breakfast, and it won't be hard because you sip this Unimate, and what it does, is rather than you injecting GLP-1 from Ozempic, tirzepatide, Wegovy, and screwing up your ghrelin response for 2,500 times the effect, rather than just going with your own GLP-1, this just boosts your own production of GLP-1 about 60%. Okay. So you understand, whenever you take a body system and you shove it one direction real hard, your body's going to have this pushback. It's called homeostasis. It's a principle of biology, living systems. So what do you think happens when you totally annihilate one body system? The ghrelin response. Ghrelin is the peptide that makes you hungry. That little rumble in your tummy in the morning when you feel hungry, that's ghrelin. Okay. If you annihilate and suppress ghrelin so much, like 2,500 times more than your body's natural processes do, then what do you think is going to happen when you come off that drug? Well, ghrelin's going to come back roaring like a hungry lion, and you will get fatter. You're getting married to the drug, for better or for worse, in sickness and in hopefully some short-lived health. But every drug's got a downside, especially if taken long-term. And we have no idea the long-term effects of these GLP-1 medications. There's no studies. So instead, how about just barely shifting that balance a little bit, leveraging, rather than some weird man-made molecule in a laboratory, just leveraging your own body's system, working with what's already there, just enhancing it for a little bit, for a few hours, not 10,500 minutes, just a few extra hours. Okay. That's what this does. Unimate will just pump up your GLP-1 by about 60% until you get through breakfast, and then you have breakfast. Now, the second one is called Balance. It's a collection of fibers, about 10 to 14 different plant sources of fiber. And that's the magic in it, is that it comes from so many different plant sources. There's no other nutraceutical out there. This is a patented product. There's no other supplement system out there that's got this many plant sources of fiber. What we found is that, I took Benefiber. I took it for years. It didn't help me to lose 1 pound, but I went on this, and in 3 days, I'd already lost a pound. And I never had one have any effect on my appetite, but this did, especially when combined with the Unimate. It has some other things in it, the phytonutrients, which help put out the inflammation in your body. Again, I told you your cholesterol becomes very toxic to you when inflammation is high. I had inflammation in my joints, tendons. I had a chronic tendinopathy in my foot from being a runner. It was gone. 6 weeks, disappeared, and never to return. I'd had it for over a year. I used to get pains in my fingers all the time. That's gone. And then, which was I was really worried about because I'm a surgeon. So this is the Unimate. It's got a bunch of chlorogenic acid in it. That's the magic. Chlorogenic acid helps with weight management. It's anti-cancer, reduces the absorption of carbohydrates, protects your brain, protects your kidneys. It's got some theobromine in it, which helps with mental focus, improves your mood, improves circulation. They have a caffeinated and a low, very tiny, like essentially decaffeinated version of this, so that you can drink it at night and it won't keep you up. And so that if you're a nighttime hungry person, you can use it at night. Then the Balance, again, 7 sources of fiber in one of their proprietary mixes. That's for glucose control. The next one's for the cholesterol, the phytonutrients, and they also put in some vitamins. So I'd gotten down to a 15% body fat on this product. I found that, I liberalized my eating after that. I didn't really like being quite that light for multiple reasons. So I let myself come back a few pounds down up to about 20%. At my age, I don't want to be exactly 15% body fat. I'm not trying to run a marathon or do an Ironman or anything. So this is the system that now thousands of people all over the world in 55 different countries now are using to improve, not just manage chronic disease, but to assist them in reversing chronic disease and to substantially lower their long-term risks, you know, and you can actually make a business out of this. Okay. It's a product where there's so much credibility behind it. Yes, there's a lot of doctors now that are catching on and becoming involved, particularly because they're going on the products. And doctors have as much problem with their health by and large as you do. As a group, we're not doing any better in terms of avoiding heart disease, diabetes, and all that. And so when they go on this system, I mean, how many of you have got a fat doctor telling you need to lose weight? So when they go on this, they take it. It helps them to change the course. They then drop the weight. They reverse the prediabetes. Their hypertension goes away, and then they become involved. They start to realize, you know, and we all know that trying to get a large randomized prospective trials paid for in this, it isn't going to happen. The National Institute of Health, all those people, when they get out of there, they end up working for big pharma. You think they're going to annihilate their own job, you know, by funding a big study that proves that this product is basically the best first option? It should be first line therapy for all three of those diseases. No, they're not going to do that. But here's the beauty of it. You can just try it for yourself for 3 months. And if you don't like it, just get your money back. I'm going to make this an even better deal for you, though. And I'm not going to do this forever. But if you're listening to this in the next week or so, here's the special deal that I'm going to give you on this. If you subscribe to the Feel Great system, you can do it through my link that's going to be in the caption below this when I put this on Facebook. And I'll try to find it on YouTube as well. But you can come to my Facebook page. Dr. Eric Aiken is my name. You come to my Facebook page. I'll put a link in the caption. It'll take you to a website. It'll tell you a little bit more about the system. And then you can subscribe to it. You will get, through my link, a permanent 32% discount. Okay, so it's a third off the price. You're getting it at the same price I get it for. Number two, you get the 90-day money-back guarantee. So you can try it for 90 days, get your money back if you're not satisfied. You're going to get 3 guides that I'm going to give you as well for free. The first is somewhere in this presentation. Hope I can find it. It's called the Metabolic Reset Protocol. Where is it? I have no idea where it's at. Okay, I had a page for it. I'll show you. Just hang with me. And I don't know where it is. Sorry about this. Right. No, I don't have it. Well, too bad. I can't find it. I can't believe I can't find this thing. That's frustrating. Okay. Well, anyway, Metabolic Reset Protocol is a eating framework, not a diet, but a framework, so that regardless of what types of foods you like to eat, you can navigate using this protocol to achieve metabolically what you need to in order to stay healthy, to keep the weight off, to control the cholesterol, blood pressure, all that. The second thing I'm going to give you is my lab cheat sheet. In that are 5 labs that you need to check that your doctor probably doesn't even order. And even if they did order it, they don't know what the results mean. Like I told you, on average, doctors aren't doing much better than you are. And I've had these conversations with diabetes nurse educators and physicians, endocrinologists, and I'm shocked at what they don't know. Okay. They are ingrained in the church of pharma. Okay. And I know an endocrinologist that his health, he's got to get it together. So that said, these are 5 labs that you need to check. You're going to have to ask your doctor to order them probably. And then you need to check them, but I'll show you how you can interpret them for yourself so that you can know what is your real risk level and are you actually doing better with how you're eating and what is the effect of your eating and your exercise and all the stuff you're doing. The next thing And if you go on the system, you can watch those numbers improve. I can guarantee you that. And then finally, I'm going to give you a third thing. It's a guide. It's called my apps and wearable technology guide. It is a curated list of apps and wearable technology that I think are actually worth your money, that will help you to move the needle and stay healthy. And these are things that I've personally vetted. And I really wish I could show you this value stack of all this stuff. Here it is. Bam, found it. Just don't quit. Never quit. So you're going to get, with your subscription, 90-day money-back guarantee, 32% discount, permanent. And by the way, you get your own link when you subscribe. If you want to do this with a friend, you share your link with a friend, and you get a $10 credit for every time that they stay subscribed. Not just a one-time thing, but every time thing. And you get 17 friends up. You're basically getting the product for free. You're going to get the 3 guides. And one other thing I'm going to give you is 3 coaching calls with me. Okay. I'm going to tailor this system for you. You can, if you got any questions, you got any particular issues, I'll talk to you about those things. One thing I cannot do in these consultations, though, I cannot advise you about the medicines that you take, or should you get some kind of procedure that for medical legal reasons, I don't advise you about your medicines. That's a conversation with you and your doctor, but I can coach you and explain things. And if you're having particular problems, like, with your appetite or things that you're trying to navigate in as you make your change in your diet and your routines, I can help you with those things. All right. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you take my words seriously, because things are changing. They're going to change very fast. If you decide you try this, you like this, you want to become a distributor, well, this is a business that's going to weather the storm of AI. And if you don't start building this now, winter is coming. I'm as serious as I can be about that. I'm not fear-mongering. I'm not fear-mongering enough to tell you that. It's something you need to develop the skills on. That doesn't happen overnight, and you need to get started now while this is still in the early stages. The best, always the best money made in this situation is in the early part of the wave. And right now in the United States alone, I think it's only like 3,500 distributors. And we got 350 million plus people in this country, and 88% of them have this problem. Huge market, effective product, and what would be better that you get a chance to save lives, meanwhile making yourself healthier and actually earn a living at it, one that is going to survive what is coming. That's a triple win. Okay. Message me here on Facebook if you want to know more about this business. I will be happy to give you more information. I won't pressure you. Either you're in or you're out, but I think it's definitely worth a 15-minute conversation. I'll show you how it works. And come to some of the meetings. You can see for yourself. You can see the people that are involved. They're a lot like you. They're not special. They're just, prudent. They knew that this is the way. And so I hope to see you there. I hope this has been helpful, and I will talk to you next time.